For the first time in seemingly ages, we are making a video on this athlete, a Russian hockey player whose first name is Ivan and whose last name ends in Ov. It's been a while since we've spoken about a guy who fits those characteristics, but yes, today we're heading over to the Columbus Blue Jackets and talking about Ivan Provorov. Oh, you thought I was gonna say Ivan Demidov. Nah, not today, fam, sorry. Ivan Provorov is in a pretty interesting spot with CBJ as a 27-year-old defenseman signed on till the end of this season, making $6.75 million a year. 6'1", 201-pound guy, left-handed player, and initially drafted by Philly back in the 2015 NHL entry draft. Provorov has had a pretty interesting career so far. He had a whole bunch of production in the earlier stages of that career, posting up a 41-point season and 17 goals with the Flyers in 2017-18 at the ripe old age of only 20. But Provorov, as his career went on, was never able to fully expand on that offensively, and especially after getting traded over to Columbus. I mean, last year he had 32 points and 5 goals in 82 games played, but still, he was a lot more of an effective, consistent guy earlier on in his career. Not really all too bad, though. He's been more of a two-way guy the past few years anyway. But this season, Ivan Provorov has 2 points in 6 games played. Not necessarily the best in a contract year, but I think with the way Provorov has grown and developed over the past few seasons, how he's evolved into a guy who can play decent defensively and decent offensively. I don't want to say he's like too amazing at either ends of the ice, but he is a serviceable enough guy who might be getting a tad bit overpaid right now, but whose overall service is not bad. This is a guy who's kind of playing for a contract heading into the next few years of his career. But whilst playing for a Columbus Blue Jackets team in 2024-2025 that might be in a position to maybe trying to improve their team elsewhere, we had ourselves this article that dives into how teams are calling about Ivan Provorov from Columbus. This is thefourthperiod.com and their trade update. CBJ are not itching to pull the trigger on any trades this early in the season, but that hasn't stopped other clubs from poking around and asking about veteran D-man Ivan Provorov. Several teams have inquired about Provorov's availability, with the Utah Hockey Club being one of those teams, according to TSN's Pierre LeBrun. As the Fourth Period reported, by the way, this article is on thefourthperiod.com, I don't think I said that yet. As the Fourth Period reported on Wednesday, Utah GM Bill Armstrong is not itching to make a move just yet following the long-term injuries to D-men Sean Durzi and John Marino, but he is doing his due diligence and seeing what options may become available to him later in the season. Provorov is going to be in much higher demand to the March 7th trade deadline, Pierre LeBrun said. My sense, though, is that the Blue Jackets may not be ready at this point to deal him. Provorov does not have any no-trade protection as part of his contract, and the Blue Jackets GM Don Waddell will surely try to maximize a return later in the season unless a team steps up now with a big offer. In the first 6 games of the season with the Blue Jackets thus far, Provorov has registered 2 assists. He picked up 5 goals and 27 assists for 32 points in 82 games with CBJ last year. Now, if you go over to the Columbus Blue Jackets and you try to dive into what exactly it is a trade like this means for them, here's the subreddit and some of the comments made over here. Sell high. Well, with the way their luck usually goes, the Blue Jackets should move him before he gets hurt. It would be incredibly unsurprising to wait for the deadline, though, and see him get injured. If Provorov is one thing, it's immensely durable. The dude has played every game for 6 of his 8 seasons. Oh, for sure, but he's a Blue Jacket, so... On the one hand, I don't like the idea of trading him now that he has seemed to find his groove with us. On the other, we could use some good draft picks. A reply to this says here, the Blue Jackets need to make room for Matejchuk, plus Christensen has earned a spot. We have 4 left-handed defensemen already with Matejchuk ready and waiting in Cleveland. He's got significant value, is an expiring contract, I should say, and we have prospects waiting to replace him. Taking the haul we can get for him right now is a no-brainer. It's why I never got why people hated that trade in the first place. This is the NHL, even if he played like crap for 2 years. We were always going to get that first back for him, especially if we retain 50%. Provorov is a big puck mover who is durable and plays massive minutes. At the deadline, a contender will always trade a haul for that, even if it's to plug a third pairing hole. Him just playing well increases what our return will be. Now, whether or not Utah is the team to go out there and give that trade return remains to be seen. However, it is noteworthy because they are missing out on guys like Durzi and Marino for a long time, so maybe a trade like this is a lot more appropriate for them than any of these other NHL organizations. However, you probably clicked this video because there were two other teams in the thumbnail that I wanted to dive into as well. Take a look at this article published by Michael DeRosa on NHLTradeRumors.me. Blue Jackets rumors. Here are 3 potential destinations for Provorov. This article dives into 2 other teams, but it also talks about Utah. They are the first team after all this listed over here. Don't be surprised if they keep Provorov on their radar as they try to find names to replace Durzi and Marino. But here are the other 2 teams that are talked about. It's very interesting. The Detroit Red Wings are looking at one of these conversations here. They could look to add to the left side of their defense this season. It's no secret that they could use a boost, and Provorov would undoubtedly provide them with just that. The 2015 first-round pick would be a grand addition to their top 4 and would work well on their power play. Now, for me personally, I don't necessarily agree with any of that, to be honest. I do think that Provorov is a better player than a lot of the guys that are already on Detroit right now, but power play support? I don't know about that. I mean, you've got Erik Gustafsson, you've got Moritz Seider, 2 guys that are already penciled in there. If you really wanted to push it, you could put Axel Sandin Pellikka or even Jeff Petrie when he's in the lineup in that spot as well. I don't necessarily know if Ivan Provorov will have enough clout to dethrone any of those guys on the Red Wings power play should he be traded over to Detroit, but I do think that he is a guy that would be better than some of the other options the Red Wings do have. I'd rather have Provorov than Mata, I'll say that right here. Provorov over Gustafsson. While offensively I do think Gustafsson has more to offer, I can understand why you'd take Provorov in every other situation. But then it comes down to cost too, right? Would the Wings be in a position to sacrifice some of their future assets when it comes to building a team that's going to be competitive now? They're not really all too competitive now. They just had a few wins the past few weeks, yes, but still, they've been inconsistent at best and wishy-washy at the same time, so if the Wings wanted to put themselves in a much more vulnerable position long-term by trading away a guy like Axel Sandin Pellikka, for example, for a player who is on an expiring contract in Provorov, that would be a really big risk that I'm not too sure Steve Yzerman would be willing to take. So if you are a Red Wings fan, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the idea of Detroit targeting Ivan Provorov of the Columbus Blue Jackets? But I also wanted to dive into a conversation about a Canadian team here, because it's also talked about in this piece. The Winnipeg Jets could be an interesting target. It has been a great start for the Jets as they have won each of their first 7 games. With this, they once again look like they'll be a top team in the Western Conference, so they should be big buyers this year. The Jets could use another high-impact left-shot D-man, so Provorov certainly could make sense for them. Now, if you dive into the Winnipeg Jets and their overall line combinations, I do kind of question where a guy like Provorov is going to fit. Right now, they have Morrissey, DeMello, Samberg, Pionk, Logan Stanley, and Colin Miller, and I know there's been a lot of hype for a lot of these guys here. A lot of people are excited about Logan Stanley and what he can bring. Now, is Ivan Provorov good enough to dethrone any of these guys? I'd say probably yeah, with the exception of Josh Morrissey. I'd argue that he would be maybe the 2nd or 3rd best defenseman on this team. But do you want to do that if you're Winnipeg? Do you want to sacrifice some of these extra guys that you've already given a pretty significant amount of development time to and have now started to see those rewards paying off on your hockey team on the ice? That is not necessarily saying like, oh, it would be disrespectful for the team to go out there and dethrone some of the guys that they've worked hard to develop and eventually put into this roster, but a lot of people have been excited for Logan Stanley, and I know that he's been one of the main dudes that Jets fans have been sort of clamoring around on the blue line, so trying to take away that guy's spot in the lineup, I don't know if that's the move. You could debate the same thing could be said about Dylan Samberg here too. Does he make the team better if he takes out any of these guys? Yes, for sure. Ivan Provorov is that good, but is that something the Jets would be willing to explore when things have been working so well with this specific decor? If you're a Jets fan, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about your team going out there and targeting Ivan Provorov as well. If you're a CBJ fan, what are your thoughts about these 3 teams, Utah, Detroit, and Winnipeg, as to whether or not they could be suitors for your guy? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.